Chapter 3: First Love. Do you remember your first love? Close your eyes for a moment and travel back to that time when your heart would pound madly at the mere sound of someone's name. Maybe you're smiling now. Was it a scorching summer afternoon or a crisp autumn morning? Maybe you were at school, trading notes covered in clumsily drawn emoticons, or maybe you were watching a romantic movie and daydreaming. First love strikes unexpectedly like lightning out of a clear sky, leaving a deep imprint on the soul. Why is first love so special? What sets it apart from all the loves that followed? Perhaps you've wondered at some point, over the course of your life, why that first thrill never truly fades. In this chapter, we'll unravel the mystery of first love together. We'll explore why it stays imprinted in our emotional memory and how, over time, it turns into a sweet nostalgia. I invite you to set out on this sentimental journey and discover not only the story of first love, but also the lessons and emotions it offers us, even after many years. I said that first love leaves a deep imprint, and I'm not exaggerating at all. Think of your heart as soft modeling clay in your youth. The first person you love presses hard into this emotional clay and leaves their shape there. Even as life keeps shaping the clay of your heart and other loves come along, the mark left by that first love remains visible. Sure, it's no longer as painful, if it ever was, and maybe you don't sigh at night thinking of that person anymore, but if you look closely into your soul, that outline is still there. Scientists would say there's even a biological explanation for this indelible imprint. The first time you fall in love, your brain gets an explosive cocktail of chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, the substances of happiness, attachment, and euphoria. In short, it's as if you downed 3 very strong shots of espresso, eaten chocolate, and listened to your favorite song all at once. You felt invincible, drunk on happiness. This biochemical avalanche creates an imprint in your nervous system. The brain records the experience as something very important, as if to say, attention, this is essential for survival and happiness. That's how you end up, without even realizing it, comparing every other love, at least a little, to the first for the rest of your life. Every new relationship goes through an invisible test. Does it make me feel the same as back then? More or less? You don't do it on purpose, but your brain already has a benchmark shaped by that first love. Do you remember how brave, or maybe naive you were when you first plunged headlong into love's snares? First love usually catches us young and without scars on the heart. In other words, we step into love unafraid, with a heart unbruised by earlier disappointments. We allow ourselves to love with our whole being, without holding back. If you think about it, it's possible that never again did you fling yourself into the void with such confidence. Maybe, after that first heartbreak, you too built yourself an emotional parachute, didn't you? On that first jump, first love, you leapt without any protective gear, and what a dizzying sensation it was. That innocence and total vulnerability make first love so intense. It's like the difference between tasting a chocolate cake for the first time and eating it for the 10th. The first spoonful is a bliss you've never known, because your taste buds have never tasted that flavor. So it is with the heart. The first I love you spoken or heard had an emotional flavor that the second, the third I love you can no longer replicate exactly. That doesn't mean the loves that follow can't be deep or wonderful, but they are different, more nuanced, perhaps more realistic. First love has its dose of beautiful madness, of blind faith that love conquers all. It's like a film where you truly believe the protagonists will stay together into ripe old age, without a single doubt. Interestingly, our minds work in such a way that they jealously preserve the most intense memories from adolescence or youth. You've probably noticed, sometimes you forget what you had for lunch yesterday, but you remember in detail your first romantic date from many years ago. It's as if you can still see that spot in the park where you sat on a bench, the way the setting light fell across your faces, or the melody that was playing softly in the background. Strong emotions act like a permanent marker on the pages of memory. And adolescence and early adulthood are times when we live everything at full intensity. That's why first love remains so vivid in our emotional memory. It came at a time when everything was like a film in very saturated colors. Don't be surprised if, years and years from now, a certain smell or an old song you'd completely forgotten suddenly hits you and sends you back decades, straight into the arms of your first love. Emotional memory has its playful way of catching us off guard. You might be behind the wheel, focused on the traffic, and suddenly hear on the radio, your song, you know that song. In the next second, you're a lover-struck teenager again, with your heart pounding. You smile to yourself and are almost moved to tears, even though it's possible you haven't spoken to that person in ages. That's how powerful the memory of first love is, like an echo that resounds across time, again and again, even though the source of the sound faded long ago. Without realizing it, the first love relationship also becomes a kind of teacher or template for the heart. When you love for the first time, you learn what it means to care for someone in that special, romantic way. We learn about compromise, about jealousy perhaps, about what it's like to place someone else's happiness almost on the same level as your own. All those lessons we receive in our first serious relationship become the foundation on which we build the relationships that follow. Of course, over the course of life we adjust the plan, renovate, but somewhere deep in the soul the original sketch remains. Think of your first love as the first sketch on a blank page. Back then, you may have had some wild romantic ideas, inspired by movies or books, about what love ought to be. Maybe you thought lovers had to talk for hours on the phone every night, or that jealousy was a sign of true love, or that true love meant giving up anything for the other person. Later, life taught you things are a bit more complicated, and you tweaked the model. Still, if you look closely, you'll see that some parts of that initial drawing are still reflected in the way you love today. Maybe you still look for that sense of safety you had when your first love held your hand. Or maybe you long to feel again the intense thrill of love's first moments. In whether consciously or not, first love remains an emotional touchstone. Let's talk a little about nostalgia. For many of us, first love comes bundled with the nostalgia of youth. We remember not only the person we loved, but also who we were back then. When you look back at your first love, you might find you miss yourself, the person you were, younger, more innocent, perhaps more idealistic. Do you remember how you dreamed then? Maybe you believed the world was yours and everything was possible. Maybe you had the courage to love without asking questions and without building defensive walls around your heart. Nostalgia for first love is, often, nostalgia for that period of life. It's as if your soul was saying, I'd like to feel once more what it's like to be that me from back then, and it's perfectly normal to feel that. When you think of the first person you loved, you may not necessarily miss him or her in any concrete way. Maybe that person has become a stranger in the meantime, you lead different lives and have barely spoken. What you feel, in fact, is longing for yourself, for your younger self full of hopes and dreams. Your first love was the witness to that you, and that is why its memory is like a time capsule. Maybe sometimes we idealize our first love. Have you noticed how some people talk about first love as if it had been perfect? The reality is that, in many cases, it may not even have been as great as we remember. There may have been teenage quarrels or ridiculous moments or awkwardness, definitely awkwardness. But our mind has a knack for weaving a little idealized romantic story around that first love precisely because we cherish that time. In the album of emotional memory, first love appears with a vintage filter, in warm light, like an old photograph we look at with a forgiving eye. Now, you might be wondering, okay, first love is special and makes us nostalgic, but what do we do with that? The fact that we look back fondly on our first love is a lovely thing, as long as that memory doesn't keep us stuck in the past. Some people cling so tightly to the memory of that first love that they compare every new partner to that ghost from the past. That can be a surefire recipe for unhappiness, because the present reality will never line up perfectly with a memory burnished by time. If you've caught yourself comparing your current relationships to your first love, don't beat yourself up. It's human. But remember that every love is different and has its own charm. Your first love was irreplaceable because it was first, not necessarily because that person was one of a kind in this world or because you'll never love like that again. It's like your first trip to a foreign city. It's special because it's the first time you're seeing those places, not necessarily because that city is the most beautiful in the world. The second time you travel, you might choose another city, different, maybe more complex, and you make other memories just as precious, even if that first-time feeling isn't there anymore. The key is to cherish the memory of your first love without letting yourself get caught in its trap. We can look back with gratitude for what we lived through. Yes, it was truly something special, and I'm lucky I got to experience that love. At the same time, we can look ahead with open hearts, knowing we will love again and make more memories. It may not have the same innocence or the same intensity, but it will be something else, perhaps a more mature love, deeper in other ways. To show how powerful and yet surprising the imprint of a first love can be, I invite you to step into Michael's story. Imagine you're Michael, a man of about 37, getting ready to go to his 20-year high school reunion. Your heart beats a little faster as you drive toward your hometown, and it's not just the nerves about seeing your former classmates again. The truth is that somewhere, deep down, you're hoping to see her again, your first love, Jennifer. Michael hasn't seen Jennifer in many years. Their paths diverged naturally. Different colleges, different cities, different lives. They were left with the memory of the summer after junior year, when they were almost inseparable. It was that kind of young, intense, carefree love, with nights spent on the phone whispering stories. Their relationship didn't end in drama. It simply faded with the end of high school, like a campfire that slowly dies down when everyone heads home. All these years, Michael rarely gave Jennifer much conscious thought. His life was full: college, his first job, moving to another city, a few serious relationships, one of which nearly turned into marriage, but it wasn't meant to be. Even so, in a corner of his heart, he always kept the memory of the brown-haired girl with the infectious laugh who stole his heart at 17. Sometimes when he happened to hear their favorite song from prom, Michael felt a pang in his chest and found himself smiling. It wasn't exactly longing, but a kind of tender nostalgia for the boy he himself had been long ago. Arriving at the restaurant where the reunion is taking place, Michael nervously smooths his shirt and walks in. The room is full of familiar faces, though time has changed them a little. A buzz of conversation, hugs, nostalgic giggles, the atmosphere of a reunion after many years. Michael's gaze sweeps the room unhurriedly, nodding hello here and there to old classmates. And suddenly, he sees her. Jennifer is standing by the dessert table, talking with their former history teacher. Though 2 decades have passed, Michael recognizes her instantly, the way she holds herself, her gestures, that unmistakable smile. For a moment, it feels as if time rolls back 20 years. In his mind appears the image of the girl she was then, Jennifer wearing the blue dress at prom, flowers in her hair and excitement in her eyes. Michael takes a deep breath and walks over. "Hi, Jennifer," he says, his voice faintly trembling, as if he was 17 again and afraid of being turned down when he asked her to dance. She turns, and for a second the same surprised recognition flickers in her eyes. "Michael, oh my God, what a lovely surprise," she exclaims, and her smile widens. They hug like 2 old friends, a little awkward at first, unsure how close is too close after so many years. In the first minutes, the conversation is somewhat formal, about jobs and where life has taken them. Jennifer tells him she has recently moved back to town after years working abroad. Michael learns she was married for a time, but the marriage didn't work, and she's been divorced for a few years now. For his part, Michael shares that he is single at the moment, after spending a long time focused on his career and putting off the idea of a family. They both laugh a little, embarrassed. It's strange how life hasn't steered either of them onto the track of a traditional family, as if some invisible thread had kept them suspended. As they talk, the awkwardness fades. In their corner by the dessert table and old high school photos, Michael and Jennifer begin to unspool memories. "Do you remember when we both played hooky to go to that rock concert?" she asks, laughing. Michael nods. How could he forget? And how the math teacher caught us as we were sneaking back into school. He goes on, and they both burst out laughing. To their classmates, they probably look like just two people fondly recalling their youth. But for Michael and Jennifer, this moment has a special meaning. Every joke and every memory brings to the surface, not just the events but the feeling of that time. While Jennifer talks animated, Michael watches her and, for a few moments, sees again the girl he fell in love with, the way she shrugs when she's being ironic, the spark in her eyes when she talks about something that fires her up. Then comes the moment for a dance. The DJ puts on a slow song from the 2000s, one they had danced to at prom. It's as if everything had been arranged by an unseen script. Michael offers his hand, a little hesitant. "Want to dance for old time's sake?" he jokes. Jennifer accepts with a smile and lets herself be led to the makeshift dance floor. As they sway slowly to the music, Michael realizes how familiar and yet uncanny it all feels. Jennifer rests her head on his shoulder, exactly as she did 20 years ago. He catches for a moment the same floral perfume she wore as a teenager. His heart beats faster, not only from the emotion of the moment but also from a kind of temporal magic. He is the 37-year-old man dancing with his first love, and at the same time he feels again like the 17-year-old boy who dreamed of this moment. "You know, I've thought about you many times over the years," Michael says in a low voice, almost a whisper, as if afraid to break the spell. He feels Jennifer smiling against his shoulder. "I've thought about you too," she replies. "First love, it seems you never quite forget it," she adds, her tone warm, without a trace of sadness, just the gentle statement of a fact. The song ends, but Michael and Jennifer linger close for a few moments. Then both slip out to the terrace, where the night air is cool. There, far from the noise of the party, they speak honestly about what their relationship in youth meant to them. Jennifer admits that love set her expectations very high. She spent a long time looking in other men for the feeling of safety and excitement she had had with Michael. He acknowledges that for a long while he involuntarily compared every relationship to the idealized standard he'd kept of Jennifer. The way he knew her in adolescence. They look at each other and smile, somewhat relieved to tell each other the truth. Neither of them has stayed in love with the other all these years. They've both evolved. They're different people now. And yet the memory of the bond between them has always followed them like a benevolent shadow. As they say goodbye, Michael walks Jennifer to her car. They promise to keep in touch. "It was wonderful to see you again," Michael says, and he really means it. He feels a pleasant calm settle in his heart. Jennifer drives off, disappearing under the pale streetlights, and Michael lingers a moment, watching after her. He realizes that something in him changed that evening. If before he often asked himself, "What if?" Now he feels the answer no longer matters. All that matters is that his first love was real, it was beautiful, and it has become a part of who he is today. Michael gets into his car and heads home, back to his life as it is now. On the way, he realizes that his soul is no longer overwhelmed by nostalgia, but rather bathed in warmth. He knows that his first love will always have a special place in his heart, but that place no longer stings like a wound, it brings him a smile. And he knows something else, somewhere, in the future, other beautiful chapters await him. That night, he sleeps at peace, like after you've reread your favorite chapter in a book, and can hardly wait to see what comes next in the story. In the end, first love is, without a doubt, a magical chapter in the story of our lives. It is the imprint of youth, steeped in innocence, intensity, and emotions we no longer experience in the same way. But however special it may be, it should not overshadow the rest of the story. We can keep it like a cherished photograph in the album of the heart, one we look at with a smile from time to time, without forgetting to live in the present and to open our hearts to the loves that lie ahead. After all, the charm of first love also lies in the fact that it shows us how capable we are of loving, and if we've done it once with all our heart, we will surely be able to love again, perhaps not the same way, but in the unique and wondrous way of the person we've become along the way.